Good morning, everyone. Are we ready to start up? Okay. I want to talk with you a little bit this morning about storytelling for innovators. It's abundantly clear in this day and age that the only way to get a startup really started is by having a great story to tell. And I want to give you a little bit of an overview that comes from this young man. How many of you in the audience are familiar with Bronislaw Malinowski? There are a few hands. How many of you know that this is a stamp and we still use the mail? Wonderful. So in my line of work, I'm trained as an anthropologist first and foremost before ever becoming a brand marketer. And this man, this wonderful Polish man from Krakow, changed my life because he began a process in anthropology known as participant observation. And he absolutely positively changed the field of anthropology by saying that the only way to truly understand the people in our community is to live like they do, is to understand their stories and their values and their beliefs. And without understanding that fundamental participant observation, being part of the people in the community that we wish to serve, we're never going to create a real global community. And that was a game changer, started right here in Poland. So a little bit about me. I haven't always been a brand marketer. I'm more of a brand anthropologist. I got started in my career hitchhiking through Central America in places like Nicaragua and Guatemala and El Salvador in the late 80s, looking for a little revolution. I went on then to work in Thailand, in Laos and Vietnam and Burma, working with communities of prostitutes and their Johns doing AIDS education for many years, and then came back and did some AIDS research as an epidemiologist at the Centers for Disease Control. And I can tell you fundamentally that storytelling is the most important part of all parts of this kind of work, as well as it relates to being an entrepreneur. Now, the funny thing about doing development work is that the one thing you want to avoid being is a seagull. A seagull is the kind of usually white Westerner who comes into a developing country and basically poops their ideas of what's best for a community without really understanding the context, the people, the values, the social structure, how things work, where's the power, who has it and who doesn't. Many of you in this room have told me that your VCs sometimes feel like these guys who fly in one day, give you a whole bunch of advice, fly out the next day, without a real story to be told, a beginning, a middle, and an end. So my life while living in Thailand started by telling stories that were going to change, hopefully, what would happen to these folks. So my first customers for my message were the mamasans. These were the women who owned the brothels in Thailand. The customers, I didn't have a lot of Western customers. Most of the customers I dealt with were locals. And what was most important to him? Having a great time. And hopefully not passing a disease on to his family. And finally, the young ladies and men who worked in the sex industry, the sex workers, who really were looking to make some money, but more than anything else, to stay alive. So the values of these people, we really had to understand deeply. And unfortunately, when I arrived in Thailand, the overlying message around the story being told to them about HIV was fear. And we communicated that message by showing them terrifying pictures of all different kinds of HIV symptoms. Maybe they were yellow and jaundiced. Maybe it was horrible skin cancer, Kaposi sarcoma. Or maybe it was terrible life-threatening yeast infections in the mouth, and they were horrific to look at. But you know what? It worked. We scared the crap out of people in order to get them to change their behavior. And it worked for a while, about a year, until it didn't. And we saw dramatic drops in HIV, and then slowly rising again. And why was that? Because the majority of people that we were talking to didn't wind up seeing any of those symptoms. We were telling them a story about the most horrific thing that could happen to them, but when it didn't, behavior went back to its status quo. So as a result, we needed to change the narrative based on the conversations that were going on with these folks and making sure that what mattered to them was centered to the conversation. So we changed the narrative from fear to making every one of those individuals the hero. Even the brothel owner, even the customer, even the prostitute herself. We said to the brothel owner, be the one who protects your reputation and your investment. To the customer, we said, be the protector of your family, even while you're having a great time. And to the sex worker, we asked her to take her destiny back. We said, you take center stage, you be the hero of your life. And we wanted to create a story that we would put a better future at the end of that narrative as opposed to a coffin. So I share this story with you as a startup founder because I ask you, where does your customer live in the narrative that you are sharing about your business? How are you fundamentally making someone's life better by being in it? So what we did with these young women, instead of having them continue on in a life of prostitution, if they wanted, was to offer them a path to entrepreneurship. And this young woman from the Bronx in New York City started teaching chicken raising and pig raising and duck raising and computer skills and whatever else that might give women a future outside of that line of work. It was an opportunity for hope and goodwill. So I want to share with you a little bit further some of the conversation about some of the world's greatest storytellers. And I've always been fascinated by religion, not because I'm particularly religious, but I've always been fascinated by how the message got spread. As someone who's tracked diseases, as someone who's a communicator, I want to understand how that message travels from the tiniest places on earth to the broadest populations possible. So let's look at some of the masters of how they've actually decided to communicate that message and what it means for a startup. They start first and foremost by getting other people to tell their story. The way that these folks talk to us is in parables. Why? It's the language that we speak, the recipient of the message, not the giver of the message. It's the way that we talk to one another. It's the way that we raise our children. We start by telling them stories. It's hardwired into who we are. And more importantly, it allows people and profits, yes, CEOs, without making your egos too big, you might want to consider yourself as the prophet of your own business and your own community. How will you share what you have in a way that resonates, but most importantly, makes everyone else share the story for you? Religion is really the first viral marketing. And by viral marketing, I mean how to get other people to tell your story for you so that you don't have to do it, so that it travels to the corner of the earth, because the prophet fundamentally cannot do it by herself alone. So, let's talk about the 5 eternal rules of storytelling. One thing we have to keep in mind is history. The history of each one of these prophets is critical to take a look at. They built on the traditions that they started with. They didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? We started off with our 10 Commandments, our story of Adam and Eve. We know these stories forever. Jesus didn't throw them away and said they never happened. He built on those foundations. Number 2, being the prophet. The question I have for all of you is, are you ready to be the prophet of your business? Are you ready to come forward with a transformative message that fundamentally tells your community your life will be better after you interact with me? Can you make that claim to your employees, your vendors, your suppliers? Can they feel fundamentally that you are ushering in a new change, building on what's already here? Our prophets knew one thing to do for sure is to align with the values that were already inherent in the community. They made sure that when that eye for an eye was no longer working, that we went directly to turning the other cheek. These are stories that resonate deep within us. But more than anything, it's a solution set. It's how we change the problem, change the solution to the problem. We frame the context of that problem completely differently than we ever have before. And we make a message that matters. We went from the Prince of Enlightenment to ending suffering and rebirth forever. We gave up sin once and for all. And finally, the Prophet Muhammad fundamentally restructuring society as we knew it at that time. It's a different world on the other side of these individuals. But none of it would happen without our early adopters. And one thing we know about early adopters, those guys who hang outside the Apple store to buy the new iPhone, they are the apostles. They are the ones who are carrying the message for you. How have you aligned your communication with the folks who are going to run with your idea fastest and take it to the ends of the earth? How will you get them to do that? So let's take a look. Why are these stories so incredibly powerful? Because they always have been. Because this is how we interact. And as startup founders, fundamentally, it's how we'll need to begin to speak to people in our lives about our products and our services and our companies. So one more little history lesson about my life. I first got into doing public relations and marketing during Internet 1.0. And I remember going for my job interview, and my boss asked me, was an international health specialist know about talking to technology journalists? And I told him that if I could convince a John in a Thai brothel at 2 o'clock in the morning to put on a condom, I most certainly could convince a tech journalist to write a story about servers. But the question I had, and the bar I always kept for the companies that I work with, was the one buzzword of 1999. Is it revolutionary? Is it revolutionary? That's all anyone wanted to know. The specs, the features, every antenna, every knob and whistle, all of it had to be revolutionary. It had to be a game changer. And the fundamental question around that was, follow us, take on the revolution, or get left behind. And the fundamental underlying emotion of that story was fear. It was the same tactics I had seen in public health that were saying, if you don't cover this story, Mr. Journalist, if you don't buy our technology, customer, you will fall behind, you'll be crushed by the competition, and you will die. 15 years later, that story didn't work. And there is a new story to be told. And it's the same story about making the customer the hero, whether she is a prostitute, or whether she is a chief marketing officer, or whether she is the CEO of your biggest customer. And that story is about sharing. That is a story of goodwill. That is a story that talks about having to live with more than you had before by sharing what you have today. So the core business model today, is no surprise, is sharing, and the core emotional value is absolutely generosity. So why does it work? Why do we know that a story based on goodwill actually works? Well, it's science. It actually lights up the brain. When you tell people fear, you create this shock and awe response in the brain that actually shuts down the brain. You create that fight or flight reflex that makes people either run toward you or away from you. When you tell the goodwill story, when you as tech CEOs begin to tell people your life will be fundamentally better by using my technology, when you say, I would like to help you, I would like to share with you, I would like to help you take your company to the next level, and I'm dedicated to doing that, something else happens to the brain. It literally lights up. And the brain actually experiences reduced stress, greater reward-related activity, greater caregiving. It's actually hardwired into our brain to be generous. And when customers feel that, what it triggers is an emotional response that creates loyalty. It creates more goodwill. And the best part of all, word-of-mouth marketing. People can't wait to tell other people how great they feel about interacting with you. So this next step is what our prophets knew all along. It's the user-generated content that matters the most, that transcends culture and class and values. And we know among millennials, storytelling is infinitely more important because everyone becomes a storyteller, more trusted, memorable, more influential on purchases than media, which is my home in PR. So let's take some of the biggest corporate storytellers of our day, and you tell me what they're selling. They use a couple of different kinds of storytelling techniques, some of which you may want to apply to your own business. They are either explicit stories or implicit stories. The explicit stories are the ones talking about exactly what they sell and why they love it, and the implicit ones are those more subtle brand qualities, those values that we all share. So take Zappos.com. Tony Hsieh, the CEO, our prophet, was probably one of the first ones to tweet as a CEO directly to his customers. And why is that? What is Zappos selling here? It's not shoes, it's service. It's service. Tony Hsieh says, many people approach him and say, would you mind starting an airline? Because the customer service everywhere else sucks. I want the level of service I get from Zappos every time I fly. It's both explicit and it's front and center. This is all Tony Hsieh wants to sell you. How about this one from Nike? You very well could have the founder of Nike, Phil Knight, standing front and center telling you about his incredible shoes. But here's a man who doesn't even have Nike shoes to wear. The core message here is determination and grit. If you don't think it's important as a startup to think about the values that matter most to your company, take a look and see how powerful it is here when you can take the value of just do it to a whole new level. Or Red Bull. Red Bull is 100% testosterone. And these lovely pieces of content here were never created by Red Bull. They're created by their customers alone. How much money do you think you'd save on your marketing budget if you never had to produce another video again and your community did it for you? So I want to tell you a little bit about Dollar Shave Club. Is Dollar Shave Club here available in Poland? Maybe. So Dollar Shave Club, you can shave time and shave money. And as you might guess, they deliver razor blades and razors directly to your home. So I just want to show you a little video. Oops. There.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis.
And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, pop up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
Thank you. Dollar Shave Club. It's been around for about 2.5 years, and it's doing pretty great. So what do we think about this paradigm of our prophets and our religious storytelling opportunities? We know That he's not reinventing the razor, it's still the same razor. He's just finding a better way to sell it, right? And that is the change of the status quo. It's by understanding what fundamentally makes people upset, not having enough razors, needing to go out and buy them, having to pay an arm and a leg for them. Fine. The values are enlightened shaving, right? What he's selling us fundamentally is not razors, it's enlightenment. And you can tell exactly by how they even talk about their customers. There's our enlightened customer, number 164. And what does he say? He said he's saving about $100 a year, and basically, I'm a genius. So what has he done here? He's fundamentally getting this young man to change how he feels about himself. He's now a genius in his own right for saving that money. And the thing that Dollar Shave Club does so exceptionally well is consistency and tone throughout. You'll never have to wonder what a Dollar Shave Club video or ad looks like because it is consistent throughout. This is their sales pitch through email marketing. Want to join the ranks of our enlightened members? And when you do finally decide to join, welcome to an elite group of stratospheric thinkers. You will fit right in. The packaging on social media. The cheapest thing that any great prophet can do is humor, if it's authentic, and it is a great binder of communities. Now you'll notice Dollar Shave Club doesn't talk about its customers like customers. He started the Dollar Shave Club. He's asking you whether or not you'd like to be a member. And he never fails to point out the incredible members who are already part of the group. The packaging is hysterical, and even new products carry on that same values, that same tone, over and over again. So what does the anatomy of the Dollar Shave Club story look like? Save money, save you time and frustration. But you know what they never do? They never call you a sucker. They never make you less than. They always build you up. They always make you the hero. Join the enlightened. And you know what? As a result, they have a lot of storytellers. They make their own artwork. They set up toy battles against the old Shave Club versus the new. They even have thousands of people posting videos of shaving. How much money would it cost you to produce these videos yourself? How much time would it take? Here's what Dollar Shave Club has to show for it as a startup 2.5 years in, with 1.7 million subscribers and $72 million raised. Not too shabby. So if you want to do this work yourself, take a look at creating your own story and how they did it. Here, he speaks to the ego. He gives you an immediate sense of belonging. The story is always authentic, and it makes you laugh. More than anything, 22 million people have already seen this video. Clearly, it's other people sharing it, not Dollar Shave Club, that makes them successful. So you might say, you know what? Okay, fine. They have $72 million in funding. They can produce this beautiful video. What about me? Never underestimate the value of a micro story. How about something really boring like cloud storage? Cloud storage. How many of you use Dropbox today? I know I do. 100 million thanks. Just the art of saying thank you to people. They set this up when they hit their 100 million document milestone, and all they did was ask people, how do you use our technology? How has it made your life better? And here's what they did. People started posting their sonogram pictures. This family down here at the bottom, they're a foster family. They've adopted 16 children, and they use Dropbox to keep track of all the medical records of the kids they've adopted. Couldn't do it without them. Maybe a short micro story allows you to be the expert, like National Geographic pointing out the best Irish pub in Dublin. Or maybe you can invite an expert to find the very best bakery in all of Venice. Doesn't everyone want to know what an insider knows? Maybe let your community members take over your Instagram feed for a day. What could they bring to your brand that you didn't even know existed? Like these really posh flowers and jewelry that have nothing to do with travel, but invite a whole new group of people to participate. create an opportunity. Here's The Guardian, who has a really tough time getting their travel off the ground until they started inviting people to post their favorite travel photos. It's curated, and it goes up every day with new photos from readers, building The Guardian's brand in travel. And here's why it matters. Consumers who see a user-generated photo on their path to purchase have a 4.5% higher chance of conversion and 9.6% once they interact with the photo. Why would you not allow your community to share in your good work? I'm seeing that we're just coming to the end of time, and I want to leave you with asking you, what is your story, and how will you build it? Be the prophet that you intend to be, and make sure your early adopters, your apostles, have all of the ability to carry your message forward into the future. Good luck today in the startup competition. I wish you well. Have a fantastic time today. Thank you.